gentlemen, this is America's Healthcare Advocate.
Broadcasting coast to coast across the USA.
Your guide to protecting your personal health, bringing you simplified answers to the complex questions surrounding healthcare.
Everything from cancer to liver transplants.
Nutrition, exercise,
My yoga and Pilates instructor, Dana Goodale.
mental health, and even pet care.
Dr. Wayne Hunthausen, Westwood Animal Hospital.
Empowering you to take control of your health and wellness.
My very special guest today, Grace Marie Turner, president of the Galen Institute. Welcome back, Grace Marie.
Well, Carrie, it's a pleasure to be with you, and I do have to say, you are the most knowledgeable about health policy, just superlative.
And now, ladies and gentlemen. And now, America's Healthcare Advocate, Carrie Hall.
Hello, America. Welcome to America's Healthcare Advocate Show, broadcasting coast to coast across the USA, here on the HIA Radio Network. My producer today, Mr. Mark Groves. I'm your host, Carrie Hall. This is your show, America. Thank you for joining us and making us one of the most listened talk shows in the United States, 151 affiliates strong. As I always say, thanks to all of you in our listening audience. If you want to learn more about us or the radio show, the website is americashealthcareadvocate.com. americashealthcareadvocate.com. You can also go to my Facebook page. There are two. I'm not really sure why there are two, but there are. One is America's Healthcare Advocate. The second one is Carrie Hall, spelled C-A-R-Y, Hall, H-A-L-L. So either one of those two, everything is posted up there along with the videos. There's all kinds of information on the website and all kinds of information on the Facebook page. If you want to send me an email, feel free to do so. You can do that again from the website, americashealthcareadvocate.com. All right. Today, joining me in studio, this is something that I've wanted to do for some time, and I've been talking with these folks about doing this show for some time, and here we are today, finally going to have an opportunity to do it. In studio with me today is Sarah Eisenhower, Matt Hickman, and David Hickman from the HIC Agency. First of all, welcome back.
Welcome.
You've been here once already.
I've been here a time or two.
Welcome, Matthew.
Thank
welcome,
you for
Sarah.
having us, Carrie.
Thank you so much for having
Glad
us.
to have you both, all three of you, on today. So you may wonder, why am I bringing an agency, a brokerage agency, on this radio show? Because, as you know, obviously I have owned one, Benefits by Design, etc. Well, David and I have partnered on a number of different opportunities, and I've worked with him for the last 4 years and his team. And they have what I consider to be one of the most unique approaches to employee benefits of any agency that I've seen, and the way they do it. They've had phenomenal success. I've seen the success. We've talked to various clients. I've introduced them to clients like the state of Arkansas. They just really have a different way of approaching this, and it's an approach that's unique. And as I said, I haven't seen anything else like it in the marketplace. So I wanted to bring them in studio, talk about what they're doing and how they're doing it. And we're going to be doing a little more of this as the year goes on. So once again, welcome, David.
Well, thank you, Carrie. I appreciate it. You know, our agency over the last 26 years has...
26 years.
It's been a short 26 years, yeah. A few gray hairs for sure. What's been interesting, though, Carrie, is that we've developed a way that we take a very complex product, healthcare, health insurance benefits, and made it pretty simple for employers. And by doing that, we've also been able to separate ourselves from the other agencies, not only here in town, but nationwide as well.
So, and your focus is primarily on self-funded. But, you know, one of the misconceptions out there with employers is, well, if I'm not a 200 or 300 life group, I can't do self-funded. You've really kind of flipped that on its ear in programs like the ones you have with East Coast Underwriters and some. So talk a little bit about that and your approach.
Well, thank you. You know, East Coast Underwriters has been a good partner for us, and they've allowed us to go down to 25 lives and really take that size component out of the equation and make it where it's very easy for us to do a 25-person group and show them a guaranteed savings over a traditionally funded plan.
So why is self-funded, and it is, in my opinion, a better path for these employers, whether it's 25 or 50 or 75, or you've got groups up to 1,000 lives or better, why is that a better path for them than the standard, let's just go out and pull one off the shelf, get it? You know how it usually works. The broker shows up with a spreadsheet and pick your poison. What you're doing is a completely different model. Why is that a better approach for them?
Well, a traditionally funded plan, they're going to build in about a 15% underwriting profit margin. That's the target that they're looking for. We can take that same plan design, same copays, same deductibles, and enhance those, and typically come in below the premiums that they're at now. And then we're also able to put our cost-cutting tools in place that allow the employers to even save more money on top of that 15%.
So basically what you're saying is they're going from a model where they have no control, submit your check every month, that's
Correct.
it, okay, to a model where, we'll talk about this as we go through the show, to a model where there are levers they're able to pull with you, okay, that allow them to control their cost and reduce their spend. But the other side to that I have found fascinating is, and we'll talk about this with Matthew a little later on in the show too, is you've actually improved their level of benefits significantly.
Yeah, in every case, we try to enhance the benefits to the employees. We know from working with some of our clients, Carrie, over the last 26 years have been hospitals. And we know from working with those hospitals that higher deductibles, higher out-of-pocket costs do not necessarily correlate to lower premiums. What happens is employees avoid some of the care. And let's say that a person has avoided going to the doctor and doing that wellness check and ends up having cancer. And it's not stage 2, maybe it's stage 3 or 4. It's more expensive to treat, or maybe it's heart disease that could have been avoided completely. So we know that by lowering deductibles and lowering copays, we engage the employees in a better benefit, and we're able to do all of those preventative things and help. There's a saying, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure.
Yes.
In healthcare, that's exactly right.
So, and this is interesting because really the model has been for a long time, especially on the fully insured side, cost shifting, exactly what you just said. Let's talk about, here's what we're going to do. We're going to raise the deductible to the employees, but it's only going to affect major medical stuff, and we're going to raise the out-of-pocket, and we're going to raise the copays. But as you pointed out, and I think this is what a lot of people miss, and employers are looking at the bottom line and going, well, I can't afford to keep doing this. I'm getting 10%, 17%, 20%. Hell, I was on the road with you going to Arkansas when you were talking with a client about getting a 17% increase, and you turned around and changed that whole equation. But what's interesting is they think they have to eat that, and the only way to combat that is to go and do exactly what you said, cost shift. The model that you guys are putting in place is completely different than that.
Correct. We're looking at cost and finding out where are we being taken advantage of. We're pulling the curtain back and actually showing people what the cost is. Let me give you an example of that. In my office, my doctor had suggested that I have a lower back CT scan. And where he referred me happened to be his employer's facility. And the charge for that,
the hospital that he was affiliated with,
worked
right?
For, right.
Yeah.
And the charge for that CT scan lower back at that facility was $2,640. I looked at a program that we have that allows me to shop, if you will, Healthcare Blue Book,
right, and
found that across the street, that if you walk out of my office and look across 435, there is Johnson County or Overland Park Imaging Center. I got that same CT scan for $400, not $2,640, but $400. We put those tools in every one of our employees' hands, in an app on their phone or on their computer, where they can actually know what the cost is before they go have the service provided.
Yeah, that's a huge difference. Okay, now pull that back around full circle to the self-funded side, where they're actually paying a certain amount of these claims. Those dollars rode right back into the employer, into the employer's plan. He didn't have to spend those dollars if they were doing the same thing you were talking about doing.
Absolutely.
In other words, by reducing that cost from the full amount of an MRI at a hospital to a standalone clinic, was 1/3 of the cost of doing it the other way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So those are the kinds of tools to illustrate what makes this thing work, and allows people to see a better path for putting a program in place that's going to make sense for them as they move down the road.
Right. And as we're doing enrollments and education for the employees, we talk with them about what's going on in healthcare and how they can become a better consumer. So we need every employee to engage in that so that we have lower premiums and better outcomes.
Yeah, because it all sounds great, but if the employees don't buy in, you're nowhere.
Right.
And so the key is the employees have to buy into it if you're going to make it work. And as we go through the show today, we're going to talk about how you make that happen, because there are a whole series of pieces here that have to come together. When we come back from the break, I'm going to talk with Sarah about their customer advocacy, because this is another part of what they do that I think is very different. It's important for the employees and the employers to know someone is there when they need them, and that's the whole purpose of what they do. So we'll be right back after the break. You're listening to America's Healthcare Advocate, broadcasting on the HIA Radio Network, coast to coast across the USA. If you want to learn more about David's agency, the website is HICinsure.com, HICinsure.com. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after the break with more. Welcome back. You're listening to America's Healthcare Advocate Show, broadcasting coast to coast across the USA here on the HIA Radio Network. You can find out more about us by going to our website, americashealthcareadvocate.com, americashealthcareadvocate.com. Send me an email if you've got a question. We'd be happy to answer it for you. You can also go to the Facebook page, Carrie Hall or America's Healthcare Advocate. My producer, the always perfect Mr. Mark Groves. I'm your host, Carrie Hall. Coming up this segment, we're going to continue this fascinating conversation with David Hickman, Sarah Hickman, and Matthew Hickman. Wrong. David Hickman, Sarah Eisenhower. Okay, now I got it right. And Matthew Hickman, talking about their agency, the HIC Agency. As I said, I've worked with David for the last 4 years and his group. They do a wonderful job. And you know, what they're doing is innovative, and we'll talk more about that. But the other thing that I think is most interesting here is they can prove to you that they can deliver results. And to me, the proof is in the pudding with the way they do what they do and the results they achieve. If you want to learn more about them, you can also call 913-375-2122, and the lovely Sarah will speak with you if you want to chat with them. Hey, maybe you've got 25 lives or 100 lives. Maybe you're a small municipality, a city, a county, whatever the case may be, or a hospital, or just a private employer. It doesn't hurt to pick up the phone and ask them, hey, take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense. Also, they have a website, HICinsure, insure.com. HICinsure.com is the website. A lot of information. It's a great website. I've spent a lot of time on it with them, and they do a really good job of putting information up there. All right, Sarah, this is probably one of the places where it seems like an awful lot of agencies and benefits consultant and brokers just fall flat on their face, okay? And having done it for 20 years myself, not quite as long as David's done it, but having said that, customer advocacy, talk about what that is and how you guys do that, because it's one of the things that I've seen you do that is much, much different, in my opinion, than what I see in a lot of other places. Sarah?
So our agency likes to approach customer advocacy in a way that really holds people's hands. These employees each have their own job, which they excel at, and understanding insurance benefits isn't one of those things necessarily. So at times, insurance benefits can seem like a second language, and you have to know you have to be able to interpret it. And so that's what that's part of my job, is just chatting with employees if they have a question, whether it's, is this provider in network? If not, who is? Or is it, hey, how do I understand this EOB?
And what is an EOB?
Exactly, an explanation of benefits. And so I take pride in being able to chat with each of the employees that has any questions or concerns, really holding their hand until the concern has a solution, and just always being available.
Yeah, and you said something interesting. Let's go back to that. A second language. It is a second language, just like you said, EOB.
Absolutely.
What's an EOB? What's a copay? What's an out-of-pocket max?
Yeah.
Folks may understand some of that stuff, but they don't understand a lot of it. I can't tell you how many times I've had to sit and explain, there's a deductible and there's coinsurance, and here's how the two work, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's difficult for people. So, as you said, just maybe holding their hand, letting them know there's someplace they can go if they need help. How important do you think that is to the employer, obviously, so that he has satisfaction with his employees, and obviously to the employee?
Yeah. So when we get a new group, one of the things I always notice is how surprised they are to have someone available to help their employees. A lot of these HR staff, this is a large portion of their job is sitting down with employees and explaining the benefits to them. And so when there's someone that can kind of take that off their hands and allow the HR staff to go about the other parts of their job, it really helps them a lot. And they're typically pretty surprised by how hands-on we are. To the employee, I typically, again, see people surprised to have someone answer the phone, a human answer the phone.
That's really funny, because that was my next thing I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
What I see a lot of, and I've heard this from clients in the past, how a lot of consultants, agencies, and brokers will just tell them, well, you should be calling the 1-800 number. Right. Well, here's what I call I have a commercial that actually says this. You can either call us or you can call the 1-800 I don't give a damn number.
That's
okay?
Right.
And that's the number, you're laughing.
Right.
But that's the number that when they call the carrier, oftentimes, this is not all carriers, but there's a lot of carriers like this, where you call and you go through 15 voice prompts before you finally get somebody, if you get somebody at all. Okay, and by the time, and then maybe you have to talk to 2 or 3 different people and tell the story 2 or 3 times, and you still don't get it solved, right?
That's exactly right. You may get a we'll get back to you in a week or 2 once we have somebody review that. And while I may not be able to give solutions on the spot, I can certainly stay in contact with you, giving updates, kind of, letting you know where in the process we are. And so I do take pride in being able to always answer the phone for my members and being able to help walk them through each and every situation that occurs.
Yeah, and as you said, it's not a panacea. You can't guarantee they're going to get to hear a yes every time they call. But the fact that you're engaged, and the fact that they're not going to the human resource department or walking in the boss's office going, that what happened to me, okay.
Yes.
Taking that, because people they just want some help, right?
Yeah. I frequently actually tell people not to call customer service because it typically...
Did you hear that, people? Don't call customer service at the carrier. Yeah.
They typically end up more confused than when they started.
Angry.
And very upset. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I've had the same experience, so I can absolutely empathize with them on that.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about, because, obviously the number one thing that we hear in our agency, when I had an agency, was claims. Talk a little bit about the frustration with that and how you help them overcome those issues.
Well, and with any typical TPA, they're processing thousands of claims a day.
You have to tell them what a TPA is, Sarah.
Oh, sorry. A third-party administrator.
That other language, remember?
Sorry about that. So with self-funded health insurance, typically you'll use a third-party administrator to process claims through the health plan. And so...
So if you're using a third-party administrator to process the plan, the claims... Sometimes they don't do so.
Yes, and sometimes the claims don't come out processed exactly as they should have. Sometimes it's not the answer you want to hear, and it is processed right, but sometimes it's actually processed incorrectly. And so that's one of the things our agency enjoys being able to do is go through those back channels. I work directly with claims processors, so I'm chatting with them. They're walking me through exactly how things processed, why they process that way, and sometimes they're correcting their own mistakes when that is the case,
funny
and
too,
it does happen.
Because a lot of times hospitals will just code something wrong.
That happens very frequently.
Right. And then the TPA, it gets kicked out and doesn't get paid. And the poor person's calling screaming, wait a minute, this should have been covered. Yeah. Right. And then, so if they're not going to find that out.
The hospital doesn't mind just continuing to bill the client or the member rather. And so what I'm able to do is interface between the hospital or provider and the third party administrator and the member to kind of be an intermediary and make sure each group gets exactly what it is that they need in order to process the claim.
Makes a big difference. It really does. We're going to come back from the break. When we do, we're going to talk about surpassing expectations, and we'll talk a little bit about education. In fact, we're going to talk a lot about education and why this group feels they need to educate the employer and the employees on how this works. You're listening to America's Healthcare Advocate, broadcasting on the HIA Radio Network, coast to coast across the USA. Reach out to Sarah if you would like at 913-375-2122. She'll be happy to chat with you. We'll be right back with more. Welcome back. You're listening to America's Healthcare Advocate Show, broadcasting coast to coast across the fruited plain here on the HIA Radio Network. You can find out more about us by visiting our website, americashealthcareadvocate.com. You can send me an email from there. Go up on the Facebook page as well if you like, Carrie Hall or America's Healthcare Advocate. And there's lots of information up there. Feel free to do that if you wish. My producer today, Mr. Mark Groves. I'm your host, Carrie Hall. We're going to continue this conversation with the folks from the HIC Agency. I think you can tell by listening to Sarah and some of the things that David said initially, they really do have a different way of doing this, all right? And it is something that I urge you, if you've got 25 lives or more, if you're a municipality, and we'll talk about that, they've got a really specialized program for small municipalities, cities, counties, etc., and it's remarkable how it works. They also deal, as you heard David say, with a lot of rural hospitals, and if you're an employer, obviously, they can certainly help you. The website is HICINSUR, HICInsure.com. That's the website. Or you can call the lovely Sarah at 913-375-2122. She will be happy to chat with you and talk to you about what they do and see what they can do to help you. Like I said, it doesn't hurt to take a look. You might be surprised at what you learn. All right, so let's talk about surpassing expectations, because I know, because I've seen the examples of it. In pharmacy with you guys, in wellness programs with you guys, and Matthew will talk a little about that here in a minute. But that's something you really do, and I think one of the ways you start that is by aligning what your goals are with the employers, because I don't think a lot of people ask that question, David.
Well, it's true, and it's the missing piece, I think, in healthcare, and that is what are the goals of the employer group? Is it for?
Do they have any goals?
Right. I mean,
they don't even thought about that.
They don't get asked that question. They're in a crisis mode typically, and what I mean by that is they're just waiting for their broker consultant to come in and give them an increase at the renewal. And I'd like to come in and actually evaluate the goals of the group. What would you like to see at renewal? Would you like better benefits for your employees, lower deductibles, lower copays? Would you like lower premiums? How do we get there? Then we put a strategy together aligned with their goals to get them there for that next renewal. So it's not a surprise. It's a game plan. And we have a strategy going forward from 1 to 3 years where we can get them a lower premium in a lot of cases, have more money left over, and better benefits for the employees.
Okay, so let's go back to something you just said there, because this is the other thing. I've had some clients that I've dealt with that sometimes they think this is going to be instant success. 0 to Oprah overnight, as I say, when it comes to like radio. But you said 1 to 3 years. That means it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. Yes, you're going to see tangible results, but the longer you stay with it and the more you buy into the program, the better it gets, yes?
Yes, exactly. We have just one example is a medium-sized municipality that was getting a 30% increase with their carrier.
Merriam, Illinois just got a 30% increase 2 years ago. I remember I had people sending me the front page of the newspaper saying they got a 30% increase from Blue Cross and Blue Shield.
We came in, evaluated their plan and the goals of that municipality, and what we found is that their goals were to try and flatten out the budget, stabilize the benefits and the budget. The first year we came in flat, meaning that we were no increase at all over the previous plan. At the end of that first year, we had $400,000 left over in their reserve account.
Wow.
They took 200.
How big was that group, David?
It was about a group of 111.
That's a lot of money for a group that size.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Well, it just goes to show how much they were being taken advantage of from that carrier, because they were getting an increase on top of that. So they were getting, And what we were able to do is take out of that savings, $200,000 of it, apply it to the next year. So they had another flat year. So now we're talking about 2 years that were flat in a row. Well, we just completed their third year. They have another $400,000 in the reserve account. So they took out 2, they've got another 4, so there's a $600,000 swing without the increase that the carrier wanted to give them.
That's remarkable.
Now,
and that's what I mean when I say to the audience, tangible results.
You're going to love this too, because in that example, we lowered the copays for doc office visits, both primary and specialist. We lowered the maximum out of pocket and the deductible. So we lowered the cost for the employees as well as the savings for the employer.
It made a big difference. So, Matthew, one of the big things, we talked about this in the opening segment, one of the most difficult parts of this is all that sounds really good and it works, but you have to get the employees to buy into it. One of the key pieces to getting the employees to buy into it is a significant wellness program. And I'm not talking about something that creates a bunch of data and tells them to take their computer in the office or call up and do a phone survey. Talk about how you do that, because this is another piece of what you do that I think is significantly different.
Absolutely. Thank you, Carrie. I think our wellness program that we incorporate is a lot different from is very different from many other wellness programs. For starters, HR representatives or whoever's in charge of that is typically, swamped. So to get that program instilled and to really put the time and effort to get the participation and the engagement in that is a huge thing. So for us,
So let me interrupt you, because what you're saying is you're not dumping it back on the HR director and saying you have to do this.
Oh, absolutely not. We think that having a wellness coach or a wellness contact at our agency, somebody that will be on site quarterly, somebody that's available 24/7 to take phone calls, whether that's whether you have technological support for the apps, or whether that's you have a question with one of the benefits or one of the tools or one of the resources. I'm always available to take those calls.
And you're that guy.
That's right. That's me. So from the HR standpoint, all we really need from you is usually a census and to schedule times for me to come out. Everything else, from the flyers to the information to the presentation to the engagement, is done internally in our agency.
So talk about how you teach them to be consumers of healthcare and not consumers of health insurance.
Absolutely. So, before in the medical industry, really, like you guys were kind of talking about earlier, your doctor's going to give you that recommendation to go to the same, provider facility. And before you're going to follow that recommendation, now we actually educate all the employees, not only on how to find the best cost-effective facility to go to, but also quality is a huge part of that. So the Healthcare Blue Book tool that we have incorporates quality statistics and cost statistics. They're going to let those employees know what the best facility is for them. And that's going to be based on, radius of where they live. That's going to be based on the cost of the procedure and the quality of that procedure at that facility.
So then let's go back to wellness for just a second. And we're coming to the end of the segment here, but I want to touch on this. As I said, one of the keys is engagement. You use a phone app, and I've got the phone app because you've got me on it.
That's right.
And every day it tells me, the Walkadoo app, the rest of it tells me what I need to do. And so talk a little bit about that, because I think that's phenomenal, and the community it gives people to reach out to for smoking cessation, weight loss, and things like that.
Absolutely. So our wellness program has many main components, but first of all is going to be education. We want to educate people, and not just broad education. There's 50 different tracks in our wellness program. Each one of these tracks lasts 30 days and is going to give you one small, palatable, bite-sized challenge to do every day. And that's going to be based on something that you chose from. So whether that is nutrition, whether that's physical exercise, whether that's back pain, whether that's mental health, whether that's depression, whether that's, you'd like to get better sleep. All of these things we can, educate you on a bite-sized chunk. We also have activity tracking, which is what you were just talking about. You get a daily step goal, and that's customized to what you typically walk. So your phone or your Fitbit or your iWatch, whatever you use, you get Walkadoo on there. It's going to watch you for 2 to 3 days and then start setting a goal based on what you walk. Every day, that goal is going to go up 50, 100, just challenging you to walk a little bit more than you already do.
Yeah, it's amazing too, and we don't have time in this segment to get into it. But some of the results you've seen and some of the testimonials you've gotten, we'll have some of those folks on and later in some of the other shows we do. But this makes a difference, doesn't it?
Absolutely, it makes a huge difference. And whether that's somebody being more active with the Walkadoo, or whether that's our financial coaching tool, we actually use a very strong financial coaching tool. I know a lot
of people. With a guy by the name of Dave Ramsey.
That's right. I know a lot of people have gotten not only debt-free, but then started wealth building with the Dave Ramsey program. We actually offer that included at no cost to all the employees to be able to work that in their own time, on their phone, online, however they would like to access that.
Yeah, and that is remarkable. And again, as I said, they're unique, right? Who else does this? Not anybody that I know of. If you want to learn more about what they do, the website is HICINSUR, HICinsure.com. That's the website. Or you can call Sarah at 913-375-2122. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after the break to wrap it up with more from the folks at the HIC Agency. You're listening to America's Healthcare Advocate, broadcasting on the HIA Radio Network, coast to coast across the USA.
And I know just what to do.
Welcome back. You're listening to America's Healthcare Advocate Show, broadcasting coast to coast across the USA. Here on the HIA Radio Network, you can find out more about us by going to the website, americashealthcareadvocate.com. You have a comment or a question, send me an email. My producer, Mr. Mark Groves. I'm your host, Kerry Hall. We're going to wrap it up in this segment with the folks from the HIC Agency. They're going to be working with me for the rest of this year. You're going to hear a lot about these folks. But I urge you, after what you heard today and what we're going to finish up with here in this segment, look, it doesn't cost anything to pick up the phone and give them a call or go to that website and just look at what they do. It is different. I don't think you're ever going to see another agency that employs Dave Ramsey. I mean, seriously? So go take a look at the website. It's HICINSUR, HICinsure.com. Or, as I said, you can call Sarah at 913-375-2122. Anywhere in the country, they are happy to help you in any way that they can. All right, so, I have a saying that I've used for a lot of years, Sarah, which is the size 44 overcoat doesn't fit everybody. So you guys customize things for people. So, talk a little bit about how you do that, because not one plan works for everybody. So talk about how you use some different models depending on their needs, their size, and what they want.
Yeah, so initially when we a group first joins our program, what we like to do is ask them what it is that they like about their current plan and what it is that they don't like about their current plan. And so we'll take that and we like to address those issues head on. So say, for instance, a group wants to have a flu shot event because they like their employees at work and being productive.
Right.
It's most cost effective for them to go ahead and pay for that flu shot, but the previous plan didn't want to cover an event. And so what we can do is we can coordinate that event for the flu shot provider to come out to on site, deliver those shots, and then they can bill the insurance directly, and you never have to touch it.
And what's interesting about that, circling back to Matthew and some of the things Dave said, so now there's less chance they're going to get the flu. There's going to be less absenteeism. They're not leaving the site to go to a clinic to get the shot, which, you probably increase the number of people that are going to get the shot by 100% over what they previously were going to do. So you took that simple piece by doing that at a cost of whatever, okay, versus what it's going to cost to pay the claims. And the absenteeism when they're not at work, right?
Absolutely. Productivity is everything. And that, that's just another way we like to provide value to our member groups, is just by, showing them that we really take a look at what it is that they do and how it is that we can help them be better at what they do.
So you do something else that you guys just started recently that I thought was really kind of remarkable. And that is, we've got an epidemic of type 2 diabetes and type 1 diabetes in this country. I heard Jamie Dimian the other day say that 70% of the kids coming out of school now are pre-diabetic or diabetic, type 2 diabetic. It's scary. So the cost, talk a little bit about how you guys are approaching supplying people that have diabetes with the things they need to keep that under control so it doesn't spiral out of control and become a huge claims issue.
Absolutely. So that's one of the things that we're hearing is just that providers may or may not give their diabetic patients an idea of how many times a day they want them to be testing. But when it comes down to it, those diabetic testing strips and supplies are actually kind of pricey. And so there's a lot of people who will test less frequently or not comply with their doctor's orders in an effort to save themselves, a little bit of cash in their pocket.
Which then results in a big problem down the road because now you have a big claim, a big issue, stroke, heart attack, whatever it may be, because you weren't doing what you needed to do.
Right. Typically, if a diabetic is hospitalized, it's around $14,000 per instance. So in an effort to avoid those, what we like to do is we use a program that's called Just Diabetic Supplies. And what they do is they will get the doctor's testing frequency directly from the provider. Instead of asking, the member how many times a day should you be testing, we're going direct. And so once they get that doctor's order, they will send the testing supplies exactly as the provider suggested to the member's door. You don't need to go to the pharmacy.
Isn't that amazing?
You don't have to pay out of pocket, zero copay, zero deductible. We're covering the cost of this because we want you healthy. And so we're also very excited about a new program that is sourcing some insulins at a zero copay for members. This is something that I have heard endlessly from our members is just how much it costs to get their insulin.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It is
especially for type
them.
1 diabetics.
Right.
It is absolutely horrible. Type 2 diabetics with metformin and some of the others, that's a little more manageable. But the type 1 diabetics, that can be completely off the page.
With no generics on the market, it makes it very expensive.
Yeah.
And so we are just super excited to have this program available to us to be able to get those insulins at a reduced cost, if not a $0 copay.
David, as we wrap it up here, it's just these are just some of the pieces. We're going to talk a lot more about this as we continue to do these. But again, you're putting different models in place that allow people to make choices and better serve their employees, and the employers walk away with a far better product and a happy group of people.
Correct. And, it's really just an overall approach from our agency to manage risk. We look at the healthcare plan as a risk, and then we look at the biggest risk factors like diabetes, like Sarah just mentioned, and we develop programs where we can get those things that they need at a lesser cost and make sure that the employees are engaged in that process so that they are healthier. That's all part of that risk management philosophy that we look at. And it could be that 5% that's driving 80% of their claims. How do we manage that? Is anybody addressing those issues?
And that's how you take a 100-life group and save them $400,000 a year for 3 years.
That's exactly
seriously,
right.
That is a remarkable number when you think about that.
Absolutely.
Okay? But it's all these pieces. It's Matthew doing the wellness. It's Sarah handling this kind of thing. It's laying out the goals and objectives so they actually. There's a roadmap. Mm-hmm. How are we going to do this for the next 3 years? Not, oh, God, let's get through the crisis this year, and then we'll get ready to deal with it again next year. Little bit different way of doing things.
Absolutely. It's a process, and we're engaged in that with every employer group that we've got.
Yeah, and I think the results speak for themselves in terms of how all that works. Ladies and gentlemen, again, you've probably never heard me do this before with another broker consultant agency on the air, and I'm partnering with these folks because I think they deliver a quality product, and I'm more than willing to stand behind it because I know how it works. If you want help from them, go to their website, HICinsure.com, HICinsur.com, or call Sarah at 913-375-2122, 913-375-2122. They will be happy to help you. All right, and that ends it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Now I leave you with this thought from Albert Einstein. The one who follows the crowd will usually get no further than the crowd. The one who walks alone is likely to find himself in places no one has ever been. Remember, friends, it's a funny thing about life. If you refuse to accept anything but the very best, you most often get it. Thank you for listening to America's Healthcare Advocate Show, broadcasting here on the HIA Radio Network, coast to coast across the USA. Goodbye, America.